New Style Quilt Shop, every quilter's dream shop with old-style hospitality. New Style was established in 1876 in Kansas City, Missouri, moving to Stover, Missouri in 1973, becoming part of the quilt capital of the world per capita. In 1985, Laura Dale and family then moved New Style Quilt Shop on Route 52, offering everything one would need for making a dream quilt. Not only is one able to purchase all the basic needs to make a quilt, but will receive expert assistance from owner consultant Laura Dale and crew. They will assist the customer in finding that perfect fabric and pattern. New Style has top-of-the-line fabric from fabric suppliers, keeping in mind the needs of the quilter. You will always find the latest and the greatest at New Style. You will enjoy beautiful samples at New Style and the new look that has been created. Visit New Style Quilt Shop on Route 52 to receive a touch of that old-style hospitality. Call them at 1-800-821-7490. Lots to do on Route 52, Stover, Missouri.
Welcome to JCTV Quilting Inside and Out. I'm your host today, and we've got some great information for you. My guest today is Cherlyn Grubbs of the Jefferson City, Missouri. In this half hour, we will be educating the viewers on long arm quilting, your techniques, the different things you'd like to share, even your own quilting. If I may call you by your first name, yes. Cherlyn, I'm excited to visit with you at the studio here at your home in Jefferson City. Can you share with our viewers a little bit of when and how you became interested in quilting and how you found your way into the finishing process? First, I mentioned that she's been on the show before, interviewed, along with, Bettina Havig, I think #1 show to start off the Quilting Inside and Out. Since then, you've come a long way, Cherlyn.
Yes.
And you shared with me this piece behind us. Can you tell the viewers about that?
Yes, this is Stonehenge Northcott Challenge, a panel challenge that was done by Northcott, which is a fabric company, our local quilt shop, Alinda Specialty Quilts. Each shop that participated asked their customers or clients to make a quilt of 60 by 60 or less using the Stonehenge panel, and this is the Stonehenge panel, in a creative way. And mine was selected at the local level, and it was sent into the national level for North America, and Northcott will be making an announcement of the top 10 winners sometime in the future, but I'm just honored that it was selected to go on to that level.
So you're waiting for that report from,
yes.
from the people who will be viewing and judging.
Judging this.
Well, I'm excited for you, and congratulations on your progress.
Yes.
I remember you being somewhat a novice, and you still feel you are, but your work has really progressed, in my opinion. So it's great to see that you've kind of keep, should we say, challenging yourself.
Yes.
And now it looks like it's a beautiful piece. It speaks well for you, in fact.
Thank you. Well, it was fun.
Yes. Well, can you share with us briefly when and how you became interested in quilting, and how you found your way into the finishing process of what we call the verb quilting?
I've been quilting for a long time, hand quilting and piecing. However, I really became interested in long arm quilting about 7 or 8 years ago. I started working for Rooster Creek as a long arm quilter after my husband gave me a workshop I was interested in. And then in 2015 I bought my own machine and started my own studio down here, and have just been taken off since then.
Oh, I see. Now you have chosen the Gamble, which is a very popular and productive machine, and confidence in it. It's been doing great for you, I guess.
Yes. When I looked into quilting, buying my own machine, I looked at several different products and decided on the Gamble, and it has a Statler, which is the computerized portion of it, which kind of helps when you get your back aching, and it helps a little bit with that process. But I'm really excited about my machine. I can depend on it, and it's kind of nice to know that you have a good quality machine.
Yes. So that's a
to
good
rely on.
it's a good recommendation for Gamble, and I hear a lot about the Gambles. There's other brands too, but
Yeah, there are a lot of good quilting long arm quilting machines out there, mid arms and long arms, and but this is just the one I chose.
excellent, excellent. Well, you've come to me highly recommended by a local lady that's been a quilter in the, I guess, the noun sense for a long time, Eva Studley. That's also from Jefferson City, Missouri, and she's teaches classes, well known. A lot of people have confidence in you, so you come really highly recommended. I know interviewing you before, I was impressed with your energetic way and interest in quilting, so it did not come to me as a surprise that Eva would say you should interview Cherlyn Grubbs.
Well, Eva's been a good mentor to me, and she's taught me so much about long arming and piecing and design and color, and so she is a good resource for a lot of people in the quilting business in this area.
Now, Eva was also on the program. We had a chat, a demonstration a few shows ago, so you can look into that. And I believe Eva taught us how her way of doing it, edging.
Right.
So that was
Binding, I believe.
Binding is a better term for it.
Yeah.
We will take a break and come back and learn as much as we can from Cherlyn Grubbs on the technique, her technique, more than one, of long arm quilting. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about long arm machine quilting. This is my long arm machine. It is a Gamble Statler, which has a computer that goes with the Statler. Quilts on a long arm all quilts have 3 layers. You have the top layer, which is generally pieced. This is a panel that has pieced borders around the outside. Then you have the batting, which is the stuffing, which gives it body. And then you have a back. Back can be one big piece. It's really nice. They now come in 108 inch wide, so you don't have to piece it. A lot of times people like to piece their backs and put different things on the back, which is just fine. The batting comes in different weights and different materials. You can get all different kinds. The natural fibers are the most breathable. This one happens to be a warm and natural, but you can get polyester and cotton, all cotton, wool, bamboo, and silk. There are different advantages to different kinds. Wool, for example, is very lightweight and very warm. It drapes nicely, but it is a little bit more expensive. You can also get some of the battings in black, which is really nice if you have a really dark or black top and bottom, so that when you're stitching and the batting happens to stitch through, then it won't show up as little white dots on your quilt. So you just need to figure out what kind of quilt that you're making. If it's a utility quilt, which would be for a bed, for a baby to be used, maybe a lap quilt, you might have different requirements. Or if it's for a wall hanging, such as one of these, it could be an art quilt, it could be a table runner. This is a little table topper that I have made. It's Cleopatra's fan just for on top of my table, and it's obviously custom quilted, which we'll talk about later. But it just depends on what you're going to use your quilt for, depending on how much money you want to invest in the backing and the batting, or what you're going to use it for. I have pinned the backing onto my pickup leader and onto the bottom roller, and then I put the batting on, and then you have your top. And what we do is we baste them down. You can see that you have 3 separate layers here, and in order for them to be stable, you need to space them on the edges and do some basic stitching so that it doesn't slide around. So what I'm going to do first is demonstrate basting these together. So to secure the quilt and the 3 layers, I'm going to baste down the sides. And I'll come over here and I'll select my base stitch, set my stitch, and then we'll baste down the side. Pick up the bottom thread. And then, of course, secure and cut the tails. And we'll come to the other side and baste down the other side as well. You want to make sure that all the layers are tight, no wrinkles. And secure the end. A lot of times what I will do is also secure with some outline stitch, and I'll use a free motion. I'll drop my belts so the machine is easier to guide. When I do free motion, the machine is not guided by the computer, it's assisted by the computer, but I am guiding the quilting by myself. I'll set this to regulated stitching, set my stitch length, and I'm just going to secure this border by doing what I call a wiggle stitch. It adds motion. And it secures the quilt. When I want to put some kind of different design quilting in here or in the inner border, I also like to do something around an inner block to secure the center of the quilt. This little wiggle stitch on an outline adds motion, and it defines the area that I'm going to stitch later. I quilt 3 different ways. I do free motion, which is hand guided by myself. I do edge to edge, which will put the same design all over the whole quilt. And I do custom designs in a specific area. I can set the outline borders and put the design in, and the computer will stitch it out. In order to set the borders, all I have to do is select the boundaries and then click exactly where I want it to go. The belts on the machine will tell the computer exactly where the point is on the quilt. And you can see as I'm selecting the point, it sets a boundary here. Then on my computer screen, I have a boundary here, and I would put my design in there, make it smaller or larger, however I wanted it to go, to fit into that specified area, and then the computer will stitch it out. You can make many things out of quilted fabric. As I showed you, you can make table runners, can make wall hangings, anything that you can sew out of fabric. You can quilt the material, and then you can make it into anything you like. A bag, different designs on it. I made a cover for my featherweight machine. I put zippers in it so that it comes open. I also put my initials, CG, with a little thread and needle on here. I can program this into my computer and make little designs with letters and words. For Christmas, my husband is a Royals fan. I made him this quilt, and in these white blocks, I put in World Series champs 2015, different names of his favorite players, American League champs. As you can see, Alex Gordon, position he played, his number. So I made this quilt for my husband. So it has both custom, and then the rest of the fabric is edge-to-edge quilting. So this has both custom and edge-to-edge design in it, and it's one of his favorites. One question that I often get is, how long will it take to quilt their piece into a final quilted product? And the answer is difficult, because it depends on how large the quilt is, how detailed the quilting is going to be, and obviously how long before the actual quilter can get to it if they have a backlog. If it's edge to edge, it takes considerably less time than if it's a large custom, because edge to edge the computer can be set and it will run on its own back and forth, and I stand here and watch it. I don't walk away and leave it on its own, because so many things can happen. Threads can break, or the machine can stop for whatever reason. But that takes a lot less time than something that's custom, and depending on how densely quilted the custom is, that makes a difference as well. If it's just largely quilted with a large area, you can see that it quilts this area, but there's not a lot of detail in it. If you could look over here on this quilt, this is free motion, custom, at a more heirloom style, because it's very detailed, showing motion and wind, and this is very small or dense quilting, so this would obviously take a lot more time. So when someone asks me how long will it take, I have to ask them several questions, like how dense do you want it quilted, is it custom edge to edge, and there's all kinds of things to consider, changes of thread color, and so just talk to your long arm quilter and ask them questions, and they should be able to answer those more specifically for your product. The second process of quilting that I can do with my machine is called edge to edge. And a lot of people like this because it's a simpler way to quilt a quilt. It's less expensive than customized quilting. And it's available in a lot of different patterns. And what I do is I just select the boundary on my machine and it comes up on the computer. So I've just pointed on the computer and clicked different edges where I want the quilting to go. And then I select my pattern, and I have a lot of patterns. You can buy a lot of different patterns, and I've selected this pattern. It's waves and bubbles, and now I'm just going to adjust the pattern to fit into the area that I have to quilt. And I'm going to repeat this pattern. Excuse me. And they will connect together. And so I just want to adjust this so that it looks good in here. I can make it as big as I want to, and then I would fill it in. So it fits in there. So it's just going to stitch in that area that I have selected. And I think I will make this a little bit bigger because I don't want the quilting to be very tightly quilted. Stretch it out a little bit. And I've got it fit within here. And each of these squares on my computer is a square inch. So this will be quilted. I want those circles to be a little bit rounder. So I play with my computer a lot and it's fun. So I'm going to make this so it fits and connect these two patterns together. And then I will fill it within this area. And I'll start quilting. And now my computer is synced to the fabric, and it will stitch out this pattern exactly as it shows on the computer. And that's called edge to edge. I do always want to stand and watch to make sure that there are no problems, that I don't run out of thread, and that the wrinkles don't happen in the quilt. But it's very nice because the pattern is very precise. And as you can see, I set my boundary here so it doesn't quilt across that. It just quilts up to those points and stops. Look on the computer screen, and the black part is that which has not yet been quilted, and the red has been stitched out by my machine. So I can see exactly the process that it's taking and the path that it's going through and where it will go next. Sometimes when you get to an edge, you can use your hands to hold the fabric down so it goes exactly where you want. Because when you stitch a quilt, there is shrinkage. The stitching will cause the fabric to condense, and so it won't end up exactly the same size as when you started. It'll be a little bit smaller. So as the computer stitches across, it pulls the fabric in, and I want it to stitch right on this edge, so sometimes I just watch and make sure that it doesn't go across that boundary. And that's what we call edge-to-edge quilting. My third process is to custom quilt a quilt top with my machine. And I'm going to go through the process of loading a small table topper. You take your back and you find the center, and I have my leader marked, and so I'm just going to pin the back onto the leader. And what this does is allow me to pull the fabric tight so it has no wrinkles when I'm quilting the quilt. This is a process that I go through. There are other processes. You can use snaps, which are red plastic tubes with clamps that can go on. A lot of people like to use those. Some people use staples to put the fabric on. And I'm sure there are other techniques out there that I'm not familiar with. So now I have the top of the back loaded onto the pickup leader. And I'm going to come around the other side and load the rest of the quilt. Normally I would pin this onto the back, but because of the show I have this other quilt that's loaded on there. So I'm going to use a technique called floating, and I'm just going to use the magnetic bars to secure the back instead of pinning it. And when you have smaller quilts, this works really well. Tighten this up. So now my back is nice and tight, and I'll use the clamps so it pulls it tight. So that it's nice and tight, but not too stretched. Then I have my batting piece that I'm going to put on here. And here's my table topper. And what I will do is secure it down with basting. Get my machine in here. Make sure that it's tight, stretched out nice so there are no wrinkles. And I'm going to come down the sides and baste. Making sure that it's nice and tight so that it's stretched out. And that's the loading process. So as you can see, it takes a little time to load your quilt. And now I would think about the design that I want to quilt. I'm going to do this custom. I could do edge to edge like I demonstrated previously, but I think I want to do something really fun inside the design to make it stand out. And so what I need to do is to draw the boundary. And so I'm going to take my machine and I'm just going to click on these points . And as you can see, that tells me where that boundary is on my computer. And now I am going to click on the inside of the white or on the outside of the purple star. And this coordinates with where that boundary is. So now I'll come over to my computer and just draw a design that I might like. And I'll do something very simple for this purpose. I'm going to click on an arc, and I'm going to come here and it just depends on how detailed I want to make it. As you can see, some of these others, this is what I did for sashing on a different quilt, and I have to make sure that it all connects and stitch out as one pattern. These are different blocks that I did for another quilt that I drew these patterns on the computer. The blue is the boundary. So just as a demonstration now, I want this to quilt out as one, and I click on this button, it tells me it'll go all the way around till it gets here, and it won't go in order, so I need to come back in and tell it what order I want it to stay. And now it's all connected. So all I have to do is set my stitch length, how many stitches per inch I want it to go, and tell it to quilt. And my computer will come over here. It will start. I pull up my threads. And I always take my hand and kind of guide the fabric so it hits the exact point that I want it to go. And there it has stitched out the design exactly as I put on the computer. And that's how I do my custom quilting. If it's not a free motion, I can do free motion or on the computer. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and Rick J. for coming in and allowing me to share my passion of long arm quilting with you.
Well, Cherlyn, that was a great demonstration and a great learning experience.
Thank you.
I want to thank you again for being my guest here on Quilting Inside and Out.
I was happy to do it.
Don't forget to tune in to YouTube for more right here on Quilting Inside and Out. I'm Rick J., your host, saying see you next time.
Hi, I'm Laura Dale with New Style Quilt Shop in Stover, Missouri. We have been a family-operated business since 1973 serving our community. I find that when you come through our front door, you're going to find us to be friendly. We're going to assist you with your projects, whatever you're working on. As you come into my shop, you're going to see a large array of colors of fabric, high quality, thread, patterns, books, notions. We have a lot of panels, buttons. I'm the button queen. We have a lot of things going on in our shop. We are now going to have a bag club that you will want to be sure to be a part of. You can contact my shop for information on that to see how that's all going to work. We're going to be having classes. I am just so excited about Quilting Inside and Out to be a sponsor. So remember, there's lots to do on Route 52. Why, Debbie? Laura, I need some thread. Well, let's go get you some. Okay. Come see me.